Hey there, welcome to the webinar for December. I'm Laura Johns, founder and CEO of the Business Growers. We are streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course, those of you who have registered to be here, thank you so much for joining today. You will not regret spending this time. You made a great decision today by being here, and I want to start just by saying thank you. Thank you for taking time to commit to growing your business. Thank you for acknowledging that starting 2025 out strong is important for you. And what we're going to do today is get you a clear plan on what we want to accomplish in 2025 at your business. I'm going to throw up my slide here just to kind of introduce the beginning of our presentation today and what I'm going to be talking about. But last month, we actually teased some content planning at the end of the program, the end of our webinar. And many of you said, it felt rushed. You wanted to spend some time only on content planning. So I decided to break my routine for December, which is to normally go a little bit deeper into a 2025 digital marketing plan. We do have that recording that Grace is going to put in the chat right now. So if you want to take advantage of our last webinar and planning out your year just as a whole, you can still do that. We have the recording. You can grab that plan so that you get access to a workbook, a budget planner, pretty much everything you need to go ahead and plan out next year. So go ahead and grab that. Make sure that you watch that recording to be able to get your entire kind of 2024 digital marketing plan. Usually we repeat that on this webinar, but we're not going to do that today because we are going to dig into a full 2025 content plan for your business going into next year. So again, this is not going to be time that you regret spending. And here is, again, just the slide to show, make sure you grab that if you're interested in watching, if you haven't already watched our 2025 MSP digital marketing planning session, which we did in November just before Thanksgiving. So you still have an opportunity to watch that, get your budgeting, your plan in place for that. And I'm going to ask today that we make this interactive. We have the chat. Those of you who are here today can certainly utilize the chat to ask questions. We want you to do that and ask questions. But most of all, I'm going to just ask you to follow a couple of ground rules to set yourself up for success. I ask this almost on every webinar. I want you, you put this on your calendar. You showed up today. You have committed already to taking the next hour and investing it in yourself and your business. When I'm a big Peloton advocate, and on a lot of the different instructors on Peloton always say the hardest part of showing up you've done. So check that off the list. I'm going to ask that you give this next hour, give us your undivided attention. I've got 1 hour blocked. Let's shut everything down. We are going to ask you to use some tabs in a minute, but all other tabs, close those out, turn your cell phones off, give this your time and attention. The other thing I'm going to ask is to put your participant hat on. There may be some things we talk about today that you're an expert on. There may be some things that we talk about today that you've never heard before. So I would just love for all of us, if you're willing to put your participant hat on, throw the word participant in the chat, or if you're watching us on streaming, put participant in the comments. I just want to see that you're willing to show up and participate here. We're going to do some planning and strategy. Again, some of this you may have already done, but for the most part, since we're focusing specifically on content, my guess is you may not have this planned out all the way through next year, and that's what we're going to do today. So give this your 100% focus, put participant in the chat if you're willing to do that with me today. For those of you who are wondering who I am and what in the world I'm doing on a webinar here today, I'm Laura Johns, founder and CEO of the Business Growers. We work exclusively with managed services providers, IT businesses, telecommunications companies, and I've been doing this for quite some time, working internally as the CMO of a managed services provider. You can see of course, kind of what I've done in my career. If you look me up on LinkedIn or go to my website, laurapjohns.com. But But for the most part, our team day in and day out at the Business Growers is focused on one thing, and that's helping managed services providers grow and scale predictably, because we know that it is not always the case to grow predictably. And one of the things that we are going to do today is set up a plan for you so that you can generate more inbound leads. Since it is the season of giving, I want to give everyone here the opportunity to get a gift from me. So Merry Christmas. If you do not already have this book, you can access, and Grace is going to put this link in the chat. You can access my book that I published this year. It's called No Grow Scale, the Digital Marketing Blueprint to Grow Your MSP or IT Business. And also, this is a link right here that you can grab it immediately and get access to the ebook. But if you are, a hard copy kind of person, put the word copy in the chat, and Grace will reach out to you and make sure that you get an actual physical copy of the book so that you can read it, whether it's over the holidays or traveling. Whenever I talk about 2025 digital marketing planning, this book is it. This book is the guide, step by step, from the very roots and foundation all the way to scaling the business. And this chapter by chapter essentially spells out a lot of what I talked about last month on our planning webinar. It talks a lot about content, which I'm going to talk about today. So you will get access to everything you need and more if you download this book or request a copy. Again, put the word copy in the chat and we'll be sure to get you a copy. So are we ready to get into it? Let's get into content marketing planning. What in the world is content marketing, Laura? Some of you may be asking that question. So I've actually shown this image, this graphic, in a previous webinar with my friend Amy Cole at AK Operations. We talked a lot about traditional lead sources and then today's lead sources. And for the most part, when I talk to prospects, people in the industry, one of the hardest codes to crack for owners of managed services providers is, how do we go from me as the founder being the person shaking hands and getting the referrals to developing a true inbound lead program. And you can look here on this graphic and you can see there are a whole lot of traditional sources for lead generation. And then you've got, what I would consider kind of a today's more modern lead sources. And then in the middle, you've got those things that are tried and true throughout, which is, your sales reps, your people in the field hustling to get the business, the door-to-doors, the knocks, things like that. Then you've got those referrals and partnerships that are always going to generate leads. And of course, events and conferences do as well. But today we're going to talk about just one piece. So if you go back and look at our YouTube channel, The Business Growers, you will see that we have content on a lot of these lead source pieces, components. But what we're going to talk about today is going to be specifically about content marketing. And this is a phrase that is used quite frequently. And a lot of times people aren't super, super clear on what that even means. So we're going to do a little assessment today before we start. Content marketing, by definition, is generating new opportunities, new prospects into your business inbound through content. Content can also be relative. So we're going to give some really specific examples of that. But I want to do a quick inbound leads assessment. Inbound meaning how many people are contacting you, seeking you out to do business with you. And if you will, just put in the chat, 0 to 2. I'm getting 0 to 2 leads per month inbound. I'm getting 3 to 5 leads per month inbound. I'm getting 6 to 10 leads per month inbound, and I'm getting more than 10. If you can type those numbers, 0 to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 10, type those in the chat really quickly so that we get an idea of what type of inbound programs and what type of leads the folks that are joining today. And if you're joining us live stream, feel free to put that in the comments, whether you're on LinkedIn or Facebook as well. Just a good little gut check for everyone, just to think, okay, what am I getting today, so that I can look back in a year or so and see, okay, did this content marketing plan that I'm about to create move the needle for me. This is the old way that we, again, kind of going back to traditional lead sources. And then today, this is kind of the way that managed services providers make buyers of managed services providers. So your business owners, small to medium-sized business, even at enterprise, this is kind of a comparison. So you see the old way here. This is the old way foundationally that IT decision makers or buyers were making decisions. It's really fundamentally changed a lot, even since 2015. And for some of you, you're thinking 2015 doesn't seem that long ago, but we're looking at 10 years ago, right? So notice how the sales process has shifted here. You'll see, different means of lead generation. The old way today, 73% of IT decision makers are doing research online before they will have a conversation with somebody in sales. So the sales process went from, generating the lead, quick meeting, proposal, decision, maybe a few bumps in the road, of course, between those three things. But then, today people are truly engaging with content first, understanding and becoming aware of their issue, and then doing more and more research, and we'll talk just in a minute about how you make purchases. But people are moving from content engagement first to the decision versus contact with a salesperson to the decision. And I want you to kind of understand that as we go into content planning and inbound lead generation through content planning. And then, decision timeline from meeting someone, it could have taken back then 2 to 4 weeks on average. Now it's 4 to 6 months because there's lots of stakeholders involved, lots of people involved in making the decision, and lots of information out there that competes with you when someone is making an IT decision. And then, that trust building goes from only face-to-face, and this goes all the way back before the 2000s, but face-to-face was really it. And of course, it is still utilized today, but, content authority, social proof, thought leadership, these are ways that we're generating inbound leads in today's world. So I kind of just want to level set with everyone on that. And then, let's just look at a couple of more stats to back that up. 51% of MSP clients make their choice based on content that differentiates services. They want to understand those things that really stand out, those competitive advantages. 3 times more leads statistically are generated through content organically. That means no one, we still certainly have great lead volume that comes in from paid. But if I know that I'm clicking on something organic and doing research, generating leads that way is 3 times, as much as paid typically. And then 67% of B2B purchases are influenced by that digital content. So this is just kind of setting the stage for us as we get into understanding and then mapping out our content for the year. You've seen this before if you have sat on any webinar with me, more than likely, especially over the last couple of months. I just want us to make sure that we are thinking about how, again, I just mentioned statistically 70 to 73%, we're engaging, at a kind of a deeper way into the buyer journey. We're not ready to talk to sales before we realize we have a problem. So I like to kind of just walk through this because, when our buyer is completely clueless, right? First, they have to know that they have a problem. And when they do that, they start researching, right? What's out there to solve my problem? That's where your good, solid content comes in, right? So then they start to consider their solutions. I think I know what I need to do to solve my problem. Then this is the solution that might solve my problem, but I'm not sure. And then I found my solution, need a sweet deal. And that's where the sales comes in. So this is quite a lengthy, journey, but in today's 2024, 2025, the way that we serve all the way through the buyer's journey is with content. So a considerable portion of these dots that you see along the way, it is unrealistic for us to expect our sales teams to take this completely unaware buyer all the way through this buying process and journey without getting any help from content marketing? How much more of a lift would it be if this salesperson along the way knew that your buyer, after a certain process, was getting retargeted, certain part of the process, that your buyer, because they had come to your website, now was being served with content along the way and are given more reasons to choose you as their solution provider. So again, I love this graphic. If you've done any amount of webinar listening with me, then you've seen this before. But I just love to kind of make sure we're all on the same page about awareness from a buying standpoint. Okay, so what about you? Drop in the chat, what's the first thing you do when looking to make a large purchase decision? I'd love for you to write the number one in the chat if you love spending time talking to dozens of salespeople before you make a decision. If you put a 1 in the chat for that, I'm going to call your bluff, but there may be some people out there that love it. Okay. I do research online first, then I call a few. Drop a 2 in the chat if that's you, or in the comments for those of you that are watching live. And then a 3 in the chat if I ask others in the industry and then make my decision without talking to anyone else. Those of us who love to stay away from salespeople. I'm one of those. I'm a 3. So let us know when you're buying for your business, when you're making a business purchase decision, what camp do you fall in, 1, 2, or 3? It's just a good kind of perspective shift, I think, for some of us who are thinking, I don't know that people really buy that way. Well, how do you buy? Right? So here's the challenge, is that from first contact, kind of going back to that buyer's journey that we just looked at, all the steps along the way in the buyer's journey, going from first contact, whether you meet them at on a cold call, conference, an ad conversion, a referral, whatever it is, you've met them. And then there's a big gap between that and closing. And if you're a salesperson with a lot of people in your pipeline, you can't be, necessarily calling everyone every day. So here in the in-between, we're going to talk about what we're using. The answer is content. But what we're using, both personal outreach, of course you're calling, but can you call everybody in your pipeline every day? Probably not. Lead nurture, which I've got a whole session on, a whole past webinar on nurturing leads through email marketing and retargeting and things like that. And then content marketing. This is how we stay in touch, how we keep our brand in front of these buyers after contact. There's lots of ways that we can do it. Content is the leading way, and that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, let's evaluate the cost of no content marketing. And you guys, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I have put a lot of tools in the toolbox today. Some of them you may love, some of them you may not, but all of them you have access to and can use. So you will see over the next couple of slides, we're going to be dropping in the chat lots of resources. The first one is this calculator that you're going to see here. Let's go back real quick. So we're going to look at a couple of numbers here, but Grace, you can drop the calculator. I'm actually going to share my screen right here. This is just, if let's see how many leads, if we think, because we know annual contract, I'm going to go back to this slide real quick. Annual contract value, this is just on average, not necessarily for every MSP, but for a mid-sized MSP, average annual contract value is $150,000. And maybe that's over the course of, not just 12 months for you. It could be different, of course. But with that, let's just say over, maybe you do a 3-year contract, that type of thing. We know your contract could be longer than 12 months. And we know that these take a long time to close. So if we look at it today, 6 to 18 months or so. So if we look at, we know what our conversion rate is. I'm going to say it's 25%. You can actually use that content calculator to adjust that. But if we're assuming this is your average contract value, you can also reduce this. We know that, we could be missing, 5 to 6 leads a month. Look at the annual and 3-year impact to your business over the course of time if you are not participating in some sort of content marketing strategy. If you don't have a content marketing strategy, you could roughly, I would say, you could predict For medium-sized MSP successfully doing content marketing, you could predict, 8 or so leads a month. I mean, in my opinion, it's 100% worth it, especially knowing that these are getting, 3 times more than, particularly a paid ad campaign or something like that. So not something that you necessarily want to miss out on. I don't want to miss out on a single dollar, to be quite honest. So I just want to make sure that y'all see that opportunity value. You can calculate that yourself on your own time. Keep that link handy. Of course, Grace put it in the chat. Another question that a lot of people ask is, okay, well, where would I need to be? Where does my content need to be? Which we'll actually surface this question in just a minute. But this is a really, really great, quick way for you to see what opportunities you're missing. So if you go, you're allowed, I'm giving everyone permission. You can go to your browser now, even though I told you to shut it off earlier. Go to your browser, type in managed IT and then your city, or IT support and the name of your city. And then you'll see what pieces of content are coming up in organic search. And you'll also see Google prioritize as a local pack right here on a map pack to show you who's the most relevant based on that information. If you are not distributing content regularly, then Google is not going to know. And if Google doesn't know, people searching for you or for a solution to a problem that you can solve, they are also not going to know. So this is just a great, quick little exercise that you can do right now immediately. Let me just go take a quick search and see, okay, what are people, who is popping up in my area and what are they popping up for? Because ultimately you want to be popping up for whatever your prospects are looking for. These are just a couple of examples. You want to be in the local map pack. And so we're going to show you, some easy, maybe not necessarily simple, but some very obvious ways to get there. So on average, again, just some statistics. This kind of goes back to that calculator that we were looking at, but 100 monthly searches for MSP services in a 500 to 750,000 person population, metro area. Only 20% of first page results are actually MSPs, which means there are other people producing content that out there that may be about MSPs or maybe kind of a global perspective articles, content, things like that. That are not even local MSPs. It's just content that's relevant to what people are searching for. And so they're getting those first couple of pages of Google and you're not getting them, right? So your competitors and other companies are capturing these researchers with content. And, we talked about average contract value. Think about that opportunity that you're missing and the compounding effect of that as your competitors are building their content library and you're waiting. So I would say put a 1 in the chat if you are ready to start building that content today. Hopefully everyone's ready. We've already, that was the link for the content calculator. I didn't share that earlier, but you can do your own math, figure out that number that I just looked at earlier. And this is kind of just a quick little perspective on here's what your day might look like. Now you wake up, you're doing your phone calls, and this could be for a salesperson, sales rep at your office, or you as the founder. It just depends on what size you are. You're sending 100 or more emails, you're attending networking events, you're going to 2 to 3 meetings, probably more like weekly after touches, not necessarily monthly. But then, again, as you position yourself as an authority and start to build this content, you're waking up to leads, you're pre-qualifying prospects. There's no question what you do because they've done their research. Remember, 73%. So they already know everything that you're about because you've given them everything they need to learn about you. If you Google, again, that search phrase that IT support or managed services in your area, IT services in your area, and you're not there, let's think about what gaps, what content is there, what gaps do I need to fill to make sure that people who are clicking on any of these top searches find their way to me. You're going to get those pre-qualified prospects because they've already done their research. You're going to get higher close rates, and your meetings are going to be much more intentional and strategic and pre-qualified. who hates a meeting that is a complete waste of your time and isn't someone that's even qualified to be in front of you. So we're the goal here with content marketing done correctly is to eliminate the meetings that aren't qualified meetings that you can actually have a conversation and move to close a lot faster. Remember, we're really trying to kind of hone in and eliminate that close time. So if you had, 5 to 7, upwards of 10 qualified meetings a month without Chase, what would that do to your business? You're spending less time on cold outreach, your close rates are higher, and you're getting more qualified leads, not junk leads, right? That's where content marketing comes into play. So just a quick reminder here, all the different types of content we can deliver. And so now, the moment you've all been waiting for, we are going to build your content strategy. There is a link that we're going to provide that is full of prompts. Grace is going to show it here in just a few minutes, or Grace, you can go ahead and throw the prompts one in there. Don't get ahead of yourself because I want to show you this first. I showed it on the last presentation, didn't get into much detail here. Great book recommendation. If you're doing any holiday reading, they ask you answer. The first step to building authority and planning out content for 2025 is to know what questions your customers and prospects are asking. If you don't know this, I recommended this in the last webinar that I did last month. This is a great opportunity for you to stop, sit down with your leadership team, your sales team for sure, and start to think, okay, what are the exact questions that I need to answer with content? Because chances are, if they are asking it, so are other people, so are prospects, right? So great book recommendation. They ask you answer really, really helps helps create a huge understanding and practical understanding of why understanding these questions is so important to building your content strategy. So I just put some samples here. You may want to pull up your notes, type. This is the workshop portion, so you can certainly type if you choose. But go ahead and list out some of these questions. But I would say revisit this exercise that we're about to do after you know what this list is, because this is a great first step into understanding what content you need to build. And then think about all the different avenues that you can distribute this content, whether it's format or platform, distribution channel, lots of different formats. If you go back to the slide that I showed that had all of those different ways that people are absorbing content throughout the sales process, these are a few of those. I'm going to give you a handout in just a little bit with a few more, a resource, not a handout. But if you think about all the questions being asked, all the formats we can distribute this on, and then all the different distribution channels for that piece of content that we created, you can see how in a pretty short order, we actually can create a really stellar content plan, right? So if you look here, and I'm going to do a little workshopping. Okay, I actually did use this little graphic and take out a couple of things, but this is all different types of content that you can create all along the buyer's journey. So if you go to go.thebusinessgrowers.com/prompts, and again, Grace is going to throw the link in the chat here, you will actually receive this. So it'll make it a little bit easier for you to copy and paste. You can quickly, when you receive that, you can actually open up the document and copy it for yourself, because you're going to want to insert your own business name here. So make sure that you don't leave it exactly how it is. But the first thing we're going to do after you open your prompt document, and again, this is what we did on the last call. We did it really fast. So we're actually going to take our time and do this slowly. And I'm going to quickly grab on my screen. This takes a little multitasking, but first we're going to go to Gemini, Google Gemini. If you haven't used Gemini, I'm a big fan for certain purposes, but we're going to use a sample client. I'm looking at a different screen while I do this, so you guys have to bear with me, but client of ours in Detroit. I'm actually going to go ahead and insert okay, I'm a content marketing expert writing copy for my business, and then insert your business name. Open your browser. Let's do this together. Give me the top 30 topics and questions related to the subject of, you can type in managed services, business IT, just for simplicity. I'm going to leave it at business IT. For an audience of, you put in your business size here. I would say, small business owners, if you serve enterprise or, whatever particularly you serve, let's go ahead and insert that there. That will help me establish my topical authority as the go-to expert for this topic and audience. Put the results in a table, very important, because this will make it a lot easier for you. And then rank by monthly search volume and ease of ranking. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter and pray that Gemini likes me today. Okay, look right here. So in just a few seconds, we just built the top 30 topics. Again, I still recommend doing this exercise internally, big time. But here's the alternative, another way, a quick way. So you see all of these questions. You can click export to sheets. And what this does is turn it into a really, really nice, now this is the aftermath, so hold on just 1 minute, but it will actually export this for you, and it gives it to you by ease of ranking and then monthly search volume. How excellent is that, right? So going back to our content, our second prompt, we don't necessarily want to export that last one to sheets. You can if you want to, but we're going to go grab our second prompt, which is digging a little deeper and getting the actual types of content so that we can plan. So if you think reasonably about what types of content in 2025 can we produce? Can you do a video with your iPhone? I'd say yes. Can we do a blog post? Can we do a webinar or an infographic or a white paper? Insert in, whenever you go back to over here to our friend Gemini, just make sure that you type in what you reasonably will be able to do. Don't add something that is not realistic for you. So if you think, actually, Laura, there's no chance that I'm ever going to do a video this year, and when I say video, I don't mean sophisticated, fancy video, although that certainly could be a possibility if you have the resources. I'll give you some tips in a few minutes about what apps that we like here at the Business Growers, but only type in what you're actually going to do. So maybe it's just blog content and webinars this year, but go ahead and start thinking, okay, what are some ways that we can get content developed that we can actually do with an internal team? Go ahead and do that. And then tell it, I'm expecting a list of 30 blog post titles. These blog post titles could also be used for other titles, for other pieces of content. And then we want to make sure we put it in a table with the topic in question in one column, the type of format in another column, and the recommended title in that third column. And here we go. Gemini, again, kind of hates me. So the great thing is that I've already done this just in case, but you should, if you don't, you can always just like step away and reset, relog into Gemini. But look right here, topic, question, format, recommended title, look right here. This just produced a lot of content for you. And here's where you can export to sheets. And then you've got your topic, question, format, recommended title here in Google Sheets already created for you. Now, that's not all. We're not just going to do that. We're going to take it a step further. So once you have that, if Gemini was being your friend, if not, you might have to wait and give it another shot here in a little bit. But this is new. I actually did not put this on last month's webinar. So if you attended last month and you're on here and thinking, Laura, we already did this, but we did it a lot faster, just know that this is new. So this was not already done. So we can take this third prompt and say, using these topics, create a suggested content calendar for 12 months of the year, posting, you pick one type of content each week, 3 types of content each week. I'm going to go with 3 just for kicks, and we're going to show you right here what happens. So once you enter that prompt, it will go ahead and suggest every week of content for every month of the year. We have planned content for the whole month. You can export to sheets here. If it does stop on you, you can say, please provide, September through December. It does look like it gave up on us. That's what we love about AI, right? So you now go ahead and export that to sheets. You're definitely going to want to do that and get your sheet planned out. Now you can go, this is by no means a sophisticated, fancy project management tool. I would, in my business, would go put this straight into a tool like ClickUp or something. We even have templates internally that we use here at the Business Growers. But you can grab this template, this calendar right here. I'll show you. This is free for anybody. I just sent it. Grace can also put it in the chat, but this shows our content types and our platforms, and you can actually go in and drop these content ideas right here on the days that you want to post to start shaping your content calendar for the year. So again, you have this is, again, by no means fancy, but it does the job. It's something that you can go drop in all of that content that you just created. Now, does this have to be exactly what you post? Not necessarily. I would recommend, putting some of your own thoughts and discussion between your team, among your team into it. But it is certainly a great start. You've got, all of these topics, and you've got your content calendar template right here. Go drop it in there. You just did your 3 posts a week or whatever we discussed. So whatever you put in there. So now is the time. Go ahead and start planning out at least January, right? So at a bare minimum, you can go in right here and grab, again, pardon me for looking at, all right. I have to do the text wrapping. There you go. Topic, format, blog. Now let's go grab. Boom. Boom. You see what I'm doing here. So I'm taking all of that content we just developed. We're also going to write, what platform we're going to put it on. It's a video. And then where is it going? LinkedIn, Facebook, all social platforms, blog. You see how I'm kind of orchestrating that. So you can go ahead and get, at minimum, your January planned by using the template that I provided you. Now that I am editing that template directly, you definitely want to make a copy, by the way, of the template that's provided. So make sure you go to File and then make a copy and put this in your own, put this sheet in your own files so that you're not editing hours. I don't think you can technically, but make sure you make a copy of this and then start to drop content in for your business for January. How exciting. Look at you creating a content plan. All right. But we're not done. Okay. So now, as you do that, and I probably give folks just another minute or so to start planning this out. There may be some time at the end of this for you to also finish it up. But what we want to do is, the blog is not written. All we've done is create our strategy, our ideas, our plan, and put kind of some placeholders on the calendar, right? So now what we're going to do is change platforms. We're going to go from Gemini over to ChatGPT, or was my favorite about a month ago. Claude is struggling right now with length. So you might want to stick with ChatGPT. But now we want to say, okay, you're an expert copywriter now with focused expertise in writing to appeal to this type of business size in Detroit, Michigan, because I was using my client RCC Business IT. write an outline for a comprehensive blog post with the title, and then you insert your title. I just put this one in there, right? So the title of that first piece of content in your list that you just created, go ahead and paste that in there and say written to appeal to, and put your buyer. So whoever your buyer is, CEO of a small business, administrator at a healthcare practice, who is buying your product, let's go ahead and put that in. And I'm going to go, again, just switch back over to Claude. Let's see if Claude likes me today. So now we have an outline for a piece of content that is going to get us ranked on that top page of Google search, right? That's where we're going with this, right? So once we go back to that prompt, our next prompt is going to ask for it to write the comprehensive blog post. So I'm going to copy and paste that. Excuse the toggle, continuous toggle. And you see here I have the best expert. You know, it depends on who you feel like is the best expert in your industry. You might want to write, you know, Tim Ferriss, Neil Patel. You might want to put, you know, someone else that you deem to be an expert. I'll put Tim Ferriss for the sake of this. But if there is someone that you're like, I really like this person's writing style and it sounds like us, it sounds like me, you can add, you know, if you want to put Laura Johns, founder and CEO of the Business Growers, we'll see if it recognizes me. Claude should definitely know me, but go ahead and put that in there, who you want it to sound like. If you don't have anyone, then you can just say write in a professional style, or in Claude, you can actually choose the style that you want it to write in. But you can go ahead and tell it to write the piece of content. Look at her go. Now, of course, as with all AI written content, you want to look at any statistics, facts, data, that type of thing. But look at this beautiful piece of blog content that was just written for us, right? Again, check for things like download our free, because you got to make sure you have it. But using that prompt, you just created your blog post. And then you can also ask it to write a key takeaways section and an FAQ section, which will only serve you better with Google search, to have FAQs answered and to have a key takeaways section. So we could certainly add that to our asks of Claude or ChatGPT. Sometimes I like to make sure that Claude knows that I'm very happy with the results. So a thank you is always nice, or great job. All of us like to hear that we're doing a great job, right? So we'll see if Claude wants to give me the FAQs and key takeaways. May take us a minute. I probably should have used ChatGPT because it's liking me a lot more these days. But for those of you, yeah, here we go. For those of you that are a step ahead of me, just go ahead and enter there. I might take a, there we go. I had to think on it a minute. Look at there. How amazing, right? While that does its thing, we'll go back to our prompt list. And then think, okay, Laura, we've already decided we can do blog post internally. We can do some short form video. We can do social content, and we can do infographics or a podcast or whatever. Well, here I have, you'll see the very last couple of prompts, and I will let you guys use this to your, however you prefer. But now that we have the blog written, don't just let the blog be the only piece of content. First of all, you can certainly snip that blog into lots of pieces of content for social media. But here for both video, and you'll look at my next prompt for social media, we'll say, this is amazing. Thank you, Claude, whatever. But based on this article, write me 4 engaging social media posts. Each social media post should be written and begin with a question that creates curiosity or FOMO. That particular prompt is from my friend. And a lot of this is inspired by my AI webinar. So if you haven't looked at that, check it out with Jonathan Mast. He's amazing. He is the inspiration for a lot of these prompts. He's excellent at it. And then say is written to appeal to the audience of small business owners. You can do the same with video script. Tell it how long you want it to be. If you want to do a 30-second video every other day, go ahead and tell it exactly what you need and start getting that content built out. Again, kind of going back to, well, Laura, I don't have the resources, or I don't have fancy video equipment. You don't need high dollar video equipment to be able to produce this content. You can copy and paste the video script into a teleprompter on your iPhone. I like a little cheap ring light from Amazon to give you a little lighting on your face, or go stand in front of a window. And then here are a couple of different apps that we use here at the Business Growers to be able to split up content to make it digestible. And if you go back to your content calendar using the video prompt, the social prompt, the infographic, ask what would an infographic look like based on the content that you produce in this blog post, and let it tell you, so that you can hand over to your design team what the infographic needs to look like. You have just created multiple pieces of content using AI and prompts that you can work into your content strategy. So truthfully, there's no reason you couldn't do before the end of the year, at minimum your entire first quarter, but if not your entire year, based on the types of content posting that you're willing to do. And remember, if you are going to put forth the effort to do this, then going back to that book, They Ask You Answer, take the time to really think about what questions your target customer or your prospects are asking, so that you can really, really hone in on the type of quality content and really quality prospects. Again, we mentioned you could have a couple of unqualified sales meetings, or you can use content. And again, this takes time. Google indexes, I think, generally about every 30 days. So some content that you post, it may be 30 days before Google even knows it's there. So this is a long-term strategy to get your business and you in a place of authority, so that you are a thought leader and you are getting inbound leads because of the content that you're putting out. And this is most certainly the way to do that. So as I close, I want to invite you to our next webinar, which is going to be on January 23rd at 2 p.m. Grace has a registration link that she's going to provide in the chat. It's the title is the MSP Owner's Guide to Predictable Growth in 2025. We're going to be talking about all the things that can get you out of that habit of having to have referrals for your business, and making sure that you're not reliant on handshakes to do that. And then we're also going to offer for anyone here, we've given you the free book, we've given you these assets for you to take and do with what you will. We also want to give you the opportunity to schedule an opportunity. I'm doing growth sessions in the month of January and February for anybody who attended this final webinar of the year. That means I will sit down and analyze where you are, your website, your current marketing plan, and give you recommendations for what you should be doing in 2025 to get your business to the next level of growth and revenue growth. And so if you go to the link that you'll see here, Grace will also put this in the chat. It's the Schedule Now link. You will see my availability in January and February to be able to go ahead and book those. Again, I don't share this link with everyone. It's a webinar specific, but I would love for us just to sit down and talk about your business for an hour, and me offer any tips and planning for you in 2025. And with that, I want to thank you. I said thank you at the beginning. I meant it. I think that spending an hour planning content, and if you have the next 30 minutes, go ahead and spend the next 30 minutes continuing to finish this. Don't stop and then not pick it back up until January or February. You can plan out before the end of this year every piece of content that your business is going to produce that's going to get you top of search and inbound leads coming in this year like you never thought was possible, but it is possible. But you are in the driver's seat. You're owning your content. Of course, if you need support in any way, I would not be a good CEO if I didn't say this. The Business Growers is here for our MSP community, and we would love to help and support you in any way that we can. You can use that Schedule Now link that's posted in the chat to book some time with me. But thank you so much. You need to, make sure that you are dialed in on the plan. Utilize the resources that I provided in my last webinar to build your plan. Add this piece, this content planning piece to it to start to really figure out, okay, how can we generate these inbound opportunities without having to work twice as hard or pay for ads? If you have somebody internally that can develop this, it can be done inexpensively, and it can be done well because, again, you're in the driver's seat. So thank you so much. I always have fun doing these, and this is my last one of the year. So Merry Christmas to everyone. Feel free to use my schedule link if you'd like to book time with me in the new year to think about how you can grow your business. And you can always find us at www.thebusinessgrowers.com. Thanks so much, and Merry Christmas.